So, good morning. This is Derek Demore with Futures Demore and Futures Networks Live, and we're here to do opening bell and look over what happened. Unfortunately, I had a little snafu with my longs. I didn't realize, and I'm going to try to fix this today. The date is 6/3, so we'll see how I can get that changed. It turned out to be kind of a blessing because the call last minute was for a short and the market went long. So I believe that all the long positions that I set would have filled. So let's see what happened. So the Russell filled uh, in the second candlestick because we had 91 up to 02. That was the 10 points. The NASDAQ, I could have really made a lot more points from 58 up to 82, so I had a lot more in the tank there. So on the S&P, we literally got 6 points, about a little over 6 points, and then failed. So the next time it bounced up, I mean, we're already at 10 o'clock, so I took 6 on both and just called it good. um, and well, we got a little extra quarter. It may break out, it may not. So let's see how we did on the limit orders. I forgot to show my bullet points, so I'm showing them now so you can read over those. On the limit order side, it was really interesting because I knew that this 42.46 line basically has been really tough. We pierced it last night, but it didn't close above it. So I'm using that as a backstop. I didn't want to get into this mess. We're bouncing off the 200 period on all three markets going right into opening bell. So that's why I went long. I mean, even though the ninja trend line is down on the NASDAQ, I'm kind of thinking that's a foolish game. So I used the all-time high of 14. It was a little lower. It was down around 14.3 at this point, 14.312. So I used that and put my stop above it. And then same with the Russell. I used right below 2,300. It was like 22.99, a little above that, and then 2304 and a half. And then you can see I actually did two DCAs. So I went in with 2, 2, and 4, 2 and 2, and 2 and 2. So we'll see what happens on this. It was interesting. So got in on the Russell, did not get in yet on the NAS, which is fine. Got in on the S&P right at 42.41. Next candle, I do get in on the Nasdaq, which is crazy that it went up and so quickly, right below the 300. I'm in still um, on the Russell. If this doesn't matter that I get in, because the next one I get in on my second DCA, it doesn't stop me out. My stop was up at 2309 and a half. So you can see what I did on the NASDAQ is I took on my first entry at 99 and I got out at basically 81. So I'm calling it 18 points. I mean, it could have gone a little more, but 18 points on that one on 2. You'll see what happens next. At this point, we're hitting, I could have taken my original contracts down, but we're hitting the EMA. Now, this is the third time you've got a trend line drawn. So I took it right at the trend line, 42.41 down to 36.50. So that's 4.5 on just 2 contracts. And now our 4 contracts here, remember my average is in between. So we're at 2301. I took 2 off right at the line. So that's 2 at 2.5. I went one more candlestick and saw that we were hitting the 10 period. So I actually tried to get to the bottom of this candle, or the last candle, which we got to at 22.97. So I'll give you all the totals at the end. Boy, it's again, I hit 2, nailed 2, and the NASDAQ, my end call, it actually went above, as you'll see on the next chart. But let's just say that been kind of dialing it in lately on this. I mean, I've been hitting 2 out of 3 or very close to 3 out of 3. You can see where we're at, all-time high in purple, this hard line to get across at 42.46. So it's basically similar to the Russell, as you'll see. It's above the 10 period, it's above the R1. really needs to have a close above this line to kind of get launched. I don't know if we're going to get that today, but it may break the new all-time high and then pull back. So my two end of day calls are 42.32 and 42.53. And you can see here that I barely missed on the end of day. Actually went above it, which is great because that is even more helpful. More profit, but it's in an uber bullish market. You can see it's been closing between the 10 period EMA and the 2 sigma on the Bollinger for about 2 weeks now, maybe a little over 2 weeks. 14,100 is the bottom support right now, in my opinion. And I just think, that we just had a new all-time high, and I'd like to stay above the R1 today. So if we do, we're still uber bullish. My end of day calls are 14,180, which is just above the R1, or I'm actually going above and hitting just below the R3 for a run here. So we'll see what happens on that one. And last but not least, the Russell. You can see that, we're still on the other side. Looks a lot like the S&P, although it's not quite as far above the 10 period. We did test the 21 right here. Yesterday we bounced off the pivot point. So, and 2282 seems to be the low. So I love this. It looks good. It looks bullish. 2346 is this key line that we've double tapped. So basically I'm waiting to have a retest and a break above that. Don't know if we're going to get that today. So I put 2295 or 2330 as my end of day calls. All right, and here's how we finished on the market orders. We got 40 points because I took 6 points on the MES because it was coming up, to this area at 10 o'clock, and then the rest we filled. So 256 currency units on the micro, 2,560 on the mini. On the limit orders, a little bit circuitous, but 4.5 points on 2 contracts on the S&P, 18 points on 2 on the NASDAQ, and 3.75 on 4 contracts. Gets the total to just over 26 points, 192 currency units on the micro, and 1,920 on the mini. So thanks for being with Futures Tomorrow, Futures Networks Live, and positive points for breakfast, and we'll see you tomorrow.